So, I'm a big fan of projects where I have things I focus on, but not like hard and fast, must get this done. Things that are just a way for me to explore new books without stressing myself out about it. And so today I want to talk about one of my projects I've been working on for the last few years, which is reading a lot of vintage science fiction and fantasy. I mean, stuff from all the way back to the 1920s with Abraham Merritt, and the 30s with Stanley G. Weinbaum, and the 40s and 50s and 60s, just the bangers from back then. Today I want to talk about 5 books from the late 40s and early 50s that I want to read this year. And I've got them in chronological order because why not? And the first one is Earth Abides by George R. Stewart. This is one of the last post-apocalyptic novels of this era that I have not read. I've read A Canticle for Leibowitz. I've read The Long Tomorrow. All these books that are known as post-apocalyptic science fiction from the 50s and 60s. I've probably read it. But anyways, Earth Abides by George R. Stewart with an introduction from Connie Willis. That's a good sign. Is about a plague wiping out most of humanity. And you follow a guy as he bears witness to the final days of humanity. And that sounds awesome. It sounds terrible, but it also sounds awesome. I don't know what it is about my brain that I'm like, I want to see what happens when the world ends, but I know I'm not the only one. And I can't wait to finally get to this. This will be like the capstone for my post-apocalyptic project. I've just really, really enjoyed all of them. I say that as I see a copy of I Am Legend right in front of my face, and I have not read that yet, so that'll be part of this project too. Next book we have, completely different, is Silverlock by John Myers Myers. Man, this is a shiny boy. And this one is from NESFA Press, and not only is it a copy of Silverlock, which is a fantasy picaresque written in 1949, nothing like some fantasy that predates Lord of the Rings. One of the things I love about fantasy that predates Lord of the Rings is you don't have to worry about the baggage of people being like, well, I just copied Tolkien. Lots of people have written stuff that's not a copy of Tolkien since The Lord of the Rings came out. But the nice thing about these is I don't have to deal with that. And this book is also, like I said, a picaresque, my favorite subgenre in the whole world. And the cool thing about this copy is it has all these stories and different commentaries from other writers. This is like the book enjoyer's book. I mean, there's so much meta writing in this. More than half the book is just them talking about the book, and that is what I need in my life. But yeah, Silverlock follows A. Clarence Shandon, who is a selfish shithead like every main character in a picaresque, and his little adventures after he shipwrecks. And I cannot wait to get to this. This is one of those books that was on my list of like vintage science fiction and fantasy holy grails, and the fact that I found the copy worth owning not too long ago, man, that made my week. I was hyped beyond belief. I can't wait to get to that. And next we've got another holy grail book of mine. I actually picked this up. It was not cheap. I ended up selling a bunch of books to Recycled Books, my favorite used bookstore, and they gave me way more store credit than I expected. So I picked up Gather Darkness by Fritz Leiber. And now the wonderful thing about this one, this is a first edition, and it is a hardcover, and this boy is from 1950. And the cool thing about this is it fantasy? Yeah. Is it science fiction? Yeah. Is it post-apocalyptic-ish? Yeah. Fritz Leiber is just an absolute genius. I've loved everything I've read from him. This is like a satirical Dying Earth type story. There's just witches and devils and superstition, and the age of technology is gone, and you have weird things like a giant cat with human hands. That's not creepy at all. So I'm really looking forward to that. One of my favorite reads from last year, which I talked about not too long ago in my 1964 Hugo Awards review, was written by Clifford D. Simic, and I have City by Clifford D. Simic from 1952. And this story is going to be amazing. I already know it's going to be amazing. Everyone loves this. This is like his book. This is the book he's known for. And the great thing about this is it takes place in the distant future where humans are like a myth, and the people who talk about humans in this mythological way are dogs. You have hyper intelligent dogs and their robot servants, because at some point we uplifted dogs and then all the humans went away and there was nothing left but dogs. So you're reading a story where they're discussing mankind as if it doesn't exist, and it's from the perspective of dogs. How cool is that? Everyone loves a doggy, especially that doggy who's on the front. He's very cute. He looks like he's really seen some things. He's got like that traumatic dog stare, but it's going to be a good story. Can't wait to get to this. Clifford D. Simic is just a fantastic writer. And knowing that this is one of those books that everyone loves from him makes it even better. Can't wait to get to it. It's another one of those books I get to check off the list of like the fundamental books that established science fiction in the 50s. Gonna be real good. And this last one's not like a pillar of the genre like the other ones are, but it's also very interesting, and I've got a really cool copy, and that is The Space Merchants by Frederick Pohl and C.M. Kornbluth. And this is a science fiction book club 50th anniversary edition. I mentioned it before, but this one is number 2, which means that there's a lot of them out there, and they have this fancy 50th anniversary logo on the top. I know that there's a copy of the Forever War like that and a few other things, and I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole of collecting them, but I will pick every single one of them up when I find them. And this is The Space Merchants, and The Space Merchants is about this dystopian future where corporations essentially own you and everything around you, and it is an offense to not view the advertisements that are being forced upon you. This book follows Mitchell Courtney. He's an ad exec, and he's just landed the assignment of a lifetime, enticing consumers to colonize Venus. Nothing better than being the science fiction madmen that are trying to con people into living on a planet where the air that you would breathe is made out of sulfuric acid. Awesome. And the story revolves around him losing his marriage. It was like a trial marriage, and his wife is just like, nah, I'm out of here. And he also finds out someone's trying to kill him. So this sounds really, really good. And it's a tiny book. Look at that. This is a little baby book. That's one of the nice things about these older books. They're very short. So you get very tight, very well-paced books in a very small package. Great. You read like 3 of them in a day if you're feeling up to it. I got other stuff I would have liked to put on this list, but they didn't qualify because I decided to narrow my focus down to about 5 years in the late 40s and early 50s because I have so many of these books that I would like to get to. Then I thought that was the best option for me. I'm really excited to read those. I think I will review those as I finish them because they're very interesting, and I think that it would be doing like a service to readers out there to get these out into the world. Let people see these books because there's a lot of vintage science fiction and fantasy that is worth reading. I mean, some of them have just changed the way I look at the world and changed the way I feel about different things. And I would have never known about them if I hadn't gone out of my way to find them. Things like The Long Tomorrow from Lee Brackett, that pensive sadness in The Long Tomorrow, and just the fear of the world ending from nuclear weapons, which is still relevant today, unfortunately, but it's just different. There's not stuff written like that now. The same thing goes for The Demolished Man by Alfred Bester. That book is mind-bending. That is like a Philip K. Dick book before Philip K. Dick was writing. And it is just very unsettling and very interesting the way this dystopian future tracks people with like telepathy and how murder is impossible. This is like a weird version of like Minority Report, except the character's trying to kill someone and he intentionally like messes with his own brain to get this done. And the guy he murks, it was like so freaking sad and just so wrong. And it's like, you don't get stuff like that now. There's not a science fiction thriller that's been written in the last decade that involves a guy trying to do something horrendous in a world that it looks like it's perfect from the outside. And if there is, let me know in the comments. I'd like to read that. But anyways, these classics deserve to be read. And what I want to do with this channel is make sure that stuff like this gets out there. Like, I'm not saying I have a huge audience and everyone that watches my videos reads the books I recommend, but even if one person reads one of these books, like, that's worth it. Let me know in the comments if you have any other books like this that you think I would enjoy. I'd love to hear about them. And I want to thank you for watching. And with that, I'll see you next time.